Today, I'm going to talk about the creepy story of America's most vicious serial killer. The media called him the co-ed killer. His victims called him a monster. And when the FBI began to study the psyche of serial killers in order to learn how to stop them, they called him subject number 1. His name was Edmund Ed Kemper. Numerous serial killers have left their chilling mark on both American and global history, but the tale of Edmund Kemper stands out as particularly disturbing. While most serial killers follow a pattern of going on a killing spree, singling out their victims, subjecting them to horrifying acts, mutilating their bodies, and ultimately disposing of them, Kemper's story takes an even darker turn. In Edmund Kemper's case, he unleashed a reign of terror upon strangers and even his own family members alike. His crimes extended beyond mere killings, involving gruesome acts such as necrophilia, immolation, and sexual assaults. If you're curious about the depths to which a human psyche can descend, brace yourself for this shocking reality. Kemper's depravity began with his first heinous murders at the tender age of 15, and over the course of just 8 months as an adult, he went on to commit a series of meticulously planned homicides. Now, before we go any further, if you enjoy watching true crime stories being told in a captivating way, you're in the right spot. We post new content 3 times a week. If you like what you see, please sneak up behind the like button and scream surprise at the top of your lungs. Also, subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our weekly uploads. Now, let's dive into the mind-numbing story of Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer. It can indeed be astonishing to contemplate that even individuals who would later become psychopaths and serial killers were once innocent, powerless babies. Edmund Emil Kemper III, the American nightmare in question, was no exception to this eerie transformation. Born on December 18, 1948 in Burbank, California, to Clarnell Elizabeth Kemper and Edmund Emil Kemper, he started life as a hefty newborn, weighing an astonishing 13 pounds. By age 4, young Kemper had already outgrown his peers, standing head and shoulders above them. Ed's family life, however, couldn't be characterized as happy. Witnessing his parents, Clarnell and Edmund Jr., engage in constant acrimonious arguments during his formative years left a lasting impact on him. Clarnell openly expressed disdain for her husband's humble occupation as an electrician, never missing a chance to belittle him. On the flip side, Edmund Jr. regretted ever marrying Clarnell, finding more solace in his wartime experiences as a veteran. It's difficult to ascertain whether this familial discord was pivotal in shaping Ed's narcissistic and antisocial tendencies from an early age, including acts of animal cruelty. His violent inclinations first manifested when he was merely 10, committing a gruesome act against their family cat. He buried the poor creature alive without apparent reason, then exhumed it, decapitated it, and mounted its head on a spike, leaving a gruesome scene in his wake. And if you think that's wild, it didn't end there. At 13, 1961, he killed another family cat, driven by jealousy towards his younger sister, Allen Lee Kemper, whom he believed was receiving undue attention. This time, he dismembered the cat, hiding its remains in his closet until it was discovered by his mother. Edmund's childhood was marked by dark fantasies and morbid imaginings. He exhibited a disturbing fascination with dolls, gathering his sister's toys and dismembering them while pretending they were real infants. Perhaps most chilling of all were his childhood games, as revealed later in custody. He confessed to enjoying playing gas chamber and electric chair, wherein he would have his younger sister strap him into a chair and simulate his execution by inhaling gas or receiving an electric shock. These sinister childhood behaviors foreshadowed the darkness that would later define his life. The tumultuous marriage of Kemper's parents reached its breaking point in 1957, culminating in their formal divorce 4 years later in 1961. This event had a profound impact on young Kemper, for he had shared an exceptionally close bond with his father. Consequently, life became a relentless struggle when he was forced to reside with his mother following the divorce. Kemper's relationship with his mother was deeply dysfunctional, as he later described her as a neurotic, domineering alcoholic who constantly subjected him to degradation, humiliation, and abuse. She took cruel pleasure in ridiculing his towering stature, giving that at 14 he already stood at an imposing 6 feet 4 inches. To compound matters, Clarnell imposed a harsh living arrangement on her son, often relegating him to a makeshift bed in the basement, fueled by her unwarranted fear that he might harm his younger sisters. The unbearable circumstances eventually led Kemper to flee his mother's home in a desperate attempt to reconcile with his father in Van Nuys, California. However, upon his arrival, he discovered that his father had remarried and now had a stepson. Unfortunately, his relationship with his stepmother mirrored the toxic dynamic he had experienced with his mother. After a brief stay with his father, the elder Kemper sent him to live with his paternal grandparents, who resided on a ranch in the Sierra Nevada foothills just 2 miles west of North Fork. Kemper's discontentment only intensified in North Fork. He painted a bleak picture of his grandfather, whom he described as senile, and his grandmother, who constantly emasculated him and his grandfather. Then, on August 27, 1964, at the tender age of 15, an argument with his grandmother took a chilling turn. In a sudden, horrifying act, Kemper retrieved a firearm from the barn and shot his grandmother in the head, with additional evidence of knife stabs found on her body. But Kemper's violent spree didn't conclude there. On the same fateful day, when his grandfather returned home from the store with groceries, Kemper callously shot him to death. With a grim determination, he phoned his mother to confess his deeds. In response, she urged him to report himself to the police, a step he promptly took. At the police station, he admitted to killing his grandmother because he wanted to understand the sensation of taking a life. Also, for his grandfather, he claimed he did it to spare him the anguish of discovering his dead wife. A chilling, twisted form of mercy, wouldn't you agree? Following a comprehensive evaluation, psychiatrist Donald Lunday determined that Kemper's actions stemmed from enduring profound neglect and rejection from those who should have cared for him most, his parents. In his own warped way, Kemper sought vengeance against both his mother and father. Given his age at the time of the gruesome murders, Kemper's actions were deemed incomprehensible for a 15-year-old. Court-appointed psychiatrists diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia, leading to his placement in Atascadero State Hospital, a maximum security facility in San Luis Obispo County, catering to mentally ill offenders. During his time at Atascadero, Kemper managed to make a surprising impression on his psychiatrist by becoming a model prisoner. His cooperative demeanor led him to being entrusted with the responsibility of administering psychiatric tests to fellow inmates. In fact, some of the psychiatrists even commended him as an exceptionally diligent worker. Little did they know that this seemingly positive step would take a perilous turn in the future. On his 21st birthday, December 18, 1969, Kemper was granted parole and released from Atascadero. Astonishingly, against the counsel of the hospital's psychiatrist, he was released into the care of his mother, Clarnell, who had remarried and adopted the surname Strandberg. Upon his release, Kemper diligently adhered to his parole requirements, even pursuing higher education at a community college. His ambition was to become a police officer, but this dream was shattered due to his imposing size, leading to rejection. Kemper then embarked on a series of menial jobs before eventually securing employment with the State of California Division of Highways. Regrettably, his relationship with his mother Clarnell remained strained and fraught with tension. After some time, Kemper managed to save enough money to move out and live with a friend in Alameda. It was during this period that the dark and sinister tendencies of the serial murderer within him began to manifest themselves once again. In a chilling spree that spanned from May 1972 to April 1973, Edmund Kemper left a trail of terror, taking the lives of 8 victims, all of whom were women. His sinister modus operandi unfolded as a grim sequence of events, each more horrifying than the last. Kemper's method was to prey upon young female students who were hitchhiking, luring them into his car with false promises. Once they were within his grasp, he would transport them to remote and desolate locations, where he unleashed his unspeakable violence. His victims met their gruesome fates through shooting, stabbing, suffocation, or strangulation. The horror didn't end there. After extinguishing their lives, Kemper would transport the lifeless bodies to his home. There, he embarked on a series of unspeakable acts, decapitating his victims, engaging in perverse practices such as eremation with their severed heads, committing sexual acts with their corpses, and ultimately dismembering them before discarding the remains. His rampage claimed the lives of 5 college students, 1 high school student, his own mother, and his mother's best friend. Each victim's story is a chilling tale of innocence turned to unimaginable horror. One of his earliest victims on May 7, 1972 was Marianne Pesch and Anita Mary Lucchesa, both 18-year-old students from Fresno State University. They innocently accepted a ride from Kemper, only to find themselves handcuffed in the trunk of his car, eventually succumbing to strangulation. The horrors continued at Kemper's apartment, where he desecrated their bodies before disposing of their remains. Aiko Ku, a 15-year-old dance student, met a similarly gruesome fate on September 14, 1972. Kemper, armed and menacing, abducted her, eventually taking her life in a secluded area. Just like his previous victims, Ku's lifeless body suffered horrific desecration before being discarded. January 7, 1973 marked another dark chapter in Kemper's reign of terror. This time it was 18-year-old student Cynthia Ann Schall who fell victim. After fatally shooting her, he concealed her body in the trunk of his car, returning it to his mother's apartment, where he indulged in a nightmarish act before dismembering and decapitating her. But the most notorious and terrifying act of all was the one that targeted his own mother, Clarnell Strandberg, and her best friend, Sarah Taylor Hallett. On April 20, 1973, Kemper, fueled by simmering resentment, unleashed an unspeakable assault on his mother. The brutality was beyond comprehension, as he ended her life and then placed her severed head on a shelf, attempting to force communication from her lifeless form. To conceal his heinous acts, Kemper orchestrated a sinister movie night with his mother's best friend, only to strangle her upon arrival and hide her lifeless body away, mirroring the horrors he inflicted upon his own family. Following his gruesome act of disposing of his mother and her best friend, Kemper embarked on a desperate flight to elude the authorities. What made his escape even more perplexing was that at that moment, the police had no inkling of the horrors he had committed. Nevertheless, he bolted as if pursued by a relentless army of police cars. He journeyed 1,000 miles, driven by an inexplicable compulsion to flee, before deciding to halt his mad dash for freedom. In Pueblo, he stumbled upon a phone booth, and to the disbelief of the police on the other end, he made the call that would unravel his nightmarish crimes. Confessing to his unthinkable deeds, he turned himself in.
It started coming to a head again, so I went back down. I ran away back down there. And then a month later, I'm up living with my grandparents in the mountains, and 10 months later, I murdered them. It made it worse to be on top of a mountain. I was literally on top of a mountain when it happened. And I sensed everybody in the world just stopping what they were doing, turning around, saw what I did, and are coming to get me. And I knew I was paranoid at that moment. I knew anybody that came up there and gave me a funny look or a fishy eye or quizzical look, I'd have blown their brains out thinking they were coming to get me. And if it had been in a city, I would have been a mass murderer at age 15.
On May 7, 1973, Kemper faced indictment on 8 counts of first-degree murder. His confession left no stone unturned, as he provided every gruesome detail of his reign of terror. Then came November 1, 1973, the day of his arraignment before a 12-person jury. In chillingly explicit terms, he admitted to his crimes. However, his legal counsel urged him to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, arguing that only a deranged mind could commit the atrocities he confessed to. After 5 agonizing hours of deliberation on November 8, 1973, the jury reached a verdict. They found him sane and guilty on all counts of the murders he had committed. To the astonishment of many, Kemper made a startling request. He asked for the death sentence. But the Supreme Court of California had imposed a moratorium on capital punishment. Instead of facing the ultimate penalty, Kemper received a sentence that would ensure he paid for his heinous acts. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, a term that would see him serve 7 years for each of the lives he had mercilessly taken. So there you have the petrifying tale of Edmund Kemper. Over to you now. What are your thoughts on the outcome of Edmund's case? Share your opinions in the comments below. If you found this video to be informative and thought-provoking, we would greatly appreciate your engagement. Please consider showing your support by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. By doing so, you'll not only help us grow, but also stay updated on all our upcoming videos, which will continue to explore captivating stories just like this one.